Welcome back to your stable friend. Let's dive right in. Equestrians are liars. We are big fat liars. We lie to each other. We lie to ourselves. And the worst of all, we lie to our horses. Now, before I go any further berating you, liar, liar, pants on fire, I want to tell you that it's not your fault. You were lied to in your early education as an equestrian, aka your brainwashing, because we equestrians are all brainwashed. Again, also known as educated to be equestrians. It is a brainwashing. Equestrianism is sort of a cult, and it's not your fault. You were taught to lie. You were conditioned to lie, because everything that we are taught in our early equestrianism goes against our common sense. So in our normal life as regular people, going to elementary school or junior high or high school or being raised by our family, we're taught to try to have good judgment and to try to practice the best judgment and good common sense. And then we get into the equestrian world, and all your common sense basically gets thrown out. The first time they tell you to hit the horse with the crop or the whip, the first time your instructor asks you to give your horse a little poke with the spurs, we're thinking, oh no, that's gonna hurt. I started doing this sport, activity, pastime, passion, because I loved horses. And now this instructor, this authority figure, is telling me I need to hurt the animal that I love. And they're telling you that it's okay. They're telling you things like the horse doesn't feel it, which makes no sense at all. If the horse doesn't feel it, then why am I doing it? I mean, everything goes so far beyond anyone's common sense. You are not a normal person anymore. You're not, that's what a split, a divide comes at that point between real life and your equestrian life. And the divide sort of starts to get a little bit wider as you go. And the deeper you get into it as an equestrian, the more you have to start lying to yourself and to others. I remember my mom, who was extremely supportive of my sister and I riding. She was actually best friends with our early trainer. And the first time he asked us to go out and buy a pair of spurs, she said, wait a second. What do you mean go buy a pair of spurs? You want them to spur the horse? And we were there and the trainer was there, and we're like, oh, it's not a big deal. They barely feel it. Well, first of all, what sense does that make? If he barely feels it, then why are you doing it? You know, if he barely feels it, why are you beating him with a whip? If he barely feels it, why are you, poking him with the spurs? It doesn't make any sense. And the layman, who is your friend or your family member or spouse, is looking at you like, what? And you're oblivious because you've been brainwashed. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. So again, I am trying to tell you now that whatever I'm saying, I don't want you to have hurt feelings about what I'm saying to you. It's not your fault. You were groomed. You were prepared to have these feelings to keep the wheels turning of a very, very lucrative industry. Not from my viewpoint as a small trainer in a small boarding facility. It's not very lucrative at all. It's really a labor of love. But the industry is a billion, maybe $1 trillion industry with racing, competition, the feed, the tack, the transportation, gas, I mean, everything. It flows over into every walk of our fiscal civilization. People are spending a lot of money on the industry. And you are part of that and being brainwashed to participate in it the way that it is, not to rock the boat. I remember one of my trainers telling me what a wonderful student I was. And I was a wonderful student because I didn't ask questions. I didn't question him. That's why I was a good student. I encourage my students every single lesson. You need to be prepared to ask me a question. If you don't have one, you make one up, because I want the people that I bring along, the next generation coming up, I want them to question everything. I want them to understand why they're doing something, and I want them to be honest with themselves. If they want to go to a horse show, and the only way to go to the horse show is by putting a bit in the horse's mouth, or at a certain level having to compulsory wear a spur or carry a stick, I want them to be honest and say, hey, this is my lifelong dream to show 4th level dressage, and I need to do X, Y, and Z to do it. You know, I swear to you, my horse has this great life, you know, every other minute of the day, but I really want to do this. If they can live with themselves and say that, and they're honest about it, you know, I can't really fault them. What I would love to hear someone say instead is, I think I am having an awakening to know what the right things are to do, what a more ethical approach to equestrianism would be. I'm not there yet. I see it on the horizon. I want to go there, but I have things within me that I need to work out so I can get there. And I get that because I believe that I've known from the beginning that a lot of the things that I was doing were not ethical, and I had guilt about it, and I had bad feelings about it, and I cried a lot in my riding, and I was depressed a lot in my riding, and I felt very conflicted about my relationship with horses. I love them so much, and I was so passionate about wanting to have my life be all about horses, but I also had just the darkest and most unsettling feelings about the way I behaved around them. It wasn't my fault. I was taught to be a certain way. I remember that same trainer, and I adored this man. I'm not holding anything against him. He was trained this way. It's like a toxic family. You know, he was trained by his trainer was trained by the trainer before that in these same abusive and toxic methods. So I don't blame him. But I remember grooming my horse. He's my first horse in my mid-20s. I finally had my first horse. And he's like, put some elbow grease into there. That's not a French poodle. That's a horse. That's the whole idea behind all of this. It's not a French poodle. It's a horse. So you can treat them harshly. You can whip them. You can spur them. It's okay. They're not sensitive. Well, it's actually completely the opposite. They are extremely sensitive. Their nerve endings are, you know, we always talk about, you know, a fly landing on them. And they can feel that fly the second it lands and, you know, twitch it off. They're very, very sensitive. They're very smart. They're sentient. They're clever. They're creative. They're brilliant and so misunderstood. And we as equestrians blind ourselves to seeing the truth about the horse. That the horse is this amazing, really almost like this alien creature, this special, magnificent creature that we should be putting it on like the horse on a throne and, you know, bowing at its feet, thanking it for all that it's done for us over, you know, thousands of years, how it's helped us grow our civilization and been right there as our most loyal companion to bring us to where we are today. And we have such a great debt to the horse, and we are so unwilling to do the minimum, which is just examine our relationship with them moving forward. We have to stop lying to ourselves. We have to stop lying to others, and we have to stop lying to our own horses. If you are not there yet where you can go on this journey to become a more ethical equestrian, it's okay. But I'm glad you're watching this video because maybe we plant a seed so you understand there is a spectrum. There is one end of the spectrum where the horse is looked at as a completely utilitarian object, and there's another end of the spectrum where we hold the horse in a very exalted light and we appreciate the horse in such a way that we understand what a beautiful and sentient creature it is, and how much more respect it deserves than what it is still in the year 2023. What it's still getting from us, it's not enough. We're still falling so short. And just because you're paying for your horse to have great hay and live at a nice facility, but you're still whipping, spurring, bitting, using a stud chain, using a tight martingale, using draw reins, using a bitting rig, whipping, yelling at the horse, being angry with the horse all the time, being frustrated. As long as you're doing all of that, you're still more towards that other end of the spectrum where your horse is sports equipment, a utilitarian object. Come at least towards the middle. Come to at least the understanding that there is something else that you're missing. And again, it's not your fault. Come to the understanding that, hey, maybe I was brainwashed. Maybe I am missing something. Maybe this creature that I was so enthralled with and so in love with that made me want to be an equestrian, maybe something did happen to me where I was completely brainwashed into these ideas that don't resonate with the love that I feel in my heart for the horse. Food for thought, right? I hope so. I hope you'll think about it. And I hope you'll subscribe. And I hope you'll leave a comment, because we need to talk about this stuff. Thanks for listening.